Brought to you by Station House Coffee, stationhousecoffee.com.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Ugly Delicious, Season 2, hosted by David Chang, one of the premier, I guess, one of the better of the food shows, kind of filling the void of the late, great Anthony Bourdain. There's a lot of different food shows out. And Ugly Delicious Season 2 just hit Netflix not that long ago. And now with more time to sit at home, isolated from everybody, keeping your distance and, social quarantining, why not binge some TV? So this one is a pretty short series, only 4 episodes in Season 2 as opposed to Season 1, which I think had like 10 episodes or something like that. Still great. David Chang is a great host. And this one, a little different. I don't remember if it was the same in the first episode, but it seemed like he wasn't necessarily taking the lead in every episode. Actually, in every episode, it seems like maybe it started with him and then other chefs that are more specific to the topic of the episode kind of take over for the second part of the episode. But first episode is all about kids. It's called Kids Menu. Talks about David Chang and his wife having their first kid. He goes to a lot of different restaurant owners and other chefs who have dealt with the running a restaurant while also trying to raise a kid and have a good family. And very interesting, not only from a standpoint of just listening to a bunch of parents on how difficult it is to raise a kid, but also how cooking and food is difficult with kids as well, because kids are very picky with what they eat. They're limited with what they eat. He even goes to a school at one point to try and make a meal based on the very heavy restrictions that are available. The certain things, like you have to hit certain nutritional goals while keeping a certain budget, which he found to be a little bit difficult. But it was a fun episode overall. Just overall interesting, kind of taking the topic of kids and just wrapping how food and restaurant life and owning restaurants and just how food kind of revolves around that. Then the second episode is Don't Call It Curry, which is all about curry and like the not only just curry, but like what the influences are in curry and other seasoning and what like Indian cooking is and how different it actually is when you go to India, how different areas have different styles of cooking, which is similar. Like if you were to call a restaurant American food, right, which there are, but you go to like Philly, and they're known for your cheesesteaks. You go to Chicago, they're known for deep dish pizza. Go to Chicago or in New York, they're known for, better bagels. They're known for their New York style pizza. You go to California, you got Southern California, San Diego, you got burritos, like the whole burrito culture. You go to like Texas and New Mexico, you're getting like a Tex-Mex. So there's like regionally in the US, you're going to find different types of cuisines that were obviously inspired by the cultural melting pot that we have in this country. And in the episode about curry, it really breaks down just how more complex things are versus what we're given, especially in this country. Like you go to an Indian food restaurant, you're getting pretty basically the same thing in every Indian food restaurant, versus you actually go there, it's going to be different. It's going to be different flavors of things, different stuff. And even curry itself is generally, like, curry powder is a mixture of a bunch of other seasonings versus actually just being curry. And just, it's a far more complex thing than just being about curry. Super interesting, which, with anything culturally, it's hard to, you can't like as far as especially we live in a time before the coronavirus, especially when cultural appropriation is kind of a big, thing to be mindful of in today's culture. But everything has been culturally appropriated. Like every piece of culture has evolved from somebody else's culture, and it's the intermixing of cultures and people traveling to new places in the world and, sometimes dominating them and, kind of decimating other cultures is when they're introduced to new things and that get all kind of mixed in, and it's a big melting pot of everything, and I enjoy it. So anyway, that's the don't call it curry. Then you have the steak episode where he goes through and just talks about kind of cuz steak is like the kind of well regarded as being a meal or a food choice for celebration. To cook a steak, to cut a steak, eating steak tends to revolve around a special occasion or a celebration of some kind. And he goes through and they talk about how steak is regarded in different. I mean, in every culture, it's pretty much regarded in a similar way. But in certain parts of the world, like Japan, there's a lot higher demand. There's not enough supply of steak. So it tends to be extremely expensive, especially like the Kobe steak, where it's, super marbled, tends to be super expensive. And it's not necessarily a better steak, but it's just less. There's less of it. So, but it's very unique in that it's the marbling of it. And then also it talks about in this episode how in different places they have different cuts of beef, like the way the animal is cut and portioned and all of that. So just it's kind of fun. I remember in the first season they did a similar episode on pizza, and just I really enjoy this show because it takes kind of a topic, and it explores that topic in a very interesting way. A very feels like a very you're getting to see a lot of different widespread kind of ideas that all come together to be a part of this kind of food tradition known as steak. And they talk about your preferences for how you cook steak and how well done is widely regarded as kind of just looked down upon, which I enjoy. My steak, I don't know, say I really have a good like a particular cut, but if I like as far as how I like my steak cooked, I like it bloody. I like anywhere from medium to medium rare. I will enjoy it. I like a bloody steak. But steak in general is something that it's been a while since I've been able to afford. And now with, no economy, it's going to be interesting. And then the last episode is as the meat turns, and it's all about having the upright kind of skewer, the rotating rotisserie of meat, and kind of the history of that, and how it's pretty much regarded when you go to like a Euro place. They have that big thing of meat, and they trim the meat off of it. But that's like this is another episode where he goes into the history of where that came from and how that started and why it's so efficient, because he wants to use the upright spigot in a Korean barbecue place, a restaurant that he owns, David Chang. Um, and there's a lot of backlash, or there is an amount of backlash that comes from that. And it's just interesting how it expresses the idea of there are no rules. Anybody that complains that you shouldn't be doing something because of some like magical rule that exists is bullshit. Everything that exists today came from something else or is a different version of something that came before it. And being able to combine ideas and change things and evolve things is all about how creativity, it's like the life force of creativity. So when people start to try to apply rules to stuff is all bullshit. Just because somebody hasn't figured out a way to make something work doesn't mean it doesn't work. It may not be the most efficient way that we've discovered at this point, but it doesn't mean that there's only one way to do something, because there's an infinite amount of ways to do stuff. And the truly creative stuff, the truly kind of the things that break the mold, those are the things that tend to change culture. And I really enjoyed Ugly Delicious season 2. It was nice, kind of step away from our current society. So I highly recommend checking it out. And if you're looking for amazing coffee, single origin, small batch roasts, go to stationhousecoffee.com. Follow Station House Coffee on Instagram. Order online. It's a small business out in Vermont. Usually supplies to small markets and farmers markets out in the area. But now everything's being pushed online because of the coronavirus. So if you're looking to order amazing coffee, go to stationhousecoffee.com. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Go buy my artwork over at inspireddisorder.com and save 25% when you use coupon code RTS. Follow me on social media at Ray Taylor. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!